What's going on, everyone? It's Austin.
And Max.
And today we're going to be talking about what is seen as the black sheep of fighting games right now, and that is Smash. And we got a lot.
This was the Brawlhalla episode. Shit.
We have a lot to talk about with this game. We have a lot, because we have a ton of personal experiences with it. But we want to get something like clear right away is both of us make a ton of jokes about this game in terms of being a fighting game or not being a fighting game, because there's a lot of people that will say it isn't. Let's be real though. On the real, it's
a fighting game.
It's
at its core, it's got everything that any other fighting game has. It just uses all of those mechanics in a radically different way than traditional fighting games would.
Now, as far it's got frame data. You go online, you can find the frame data anywhere. There's all the terminology from most fighting games, generic terminology transfers right over. If you play other fighting games, you can transfer what you know from other ones into that one, and we'll be talking about that in like a later episode. It's got tournaments, it's got rewards for tournaments, it's got a great competitive scene, and there's a ton of personalities within the scene and events going on in it, as far as a competitive game. And
So
I was gonna say, like, personally, anyone at VG Bootcamp, like Gimmer, all their commentators. I met EE at MagFest. There's a picture on screen of me with him. Jigglypuff is shit.
That was an interesting first pick.
I'm picking random.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna start picking random. Oh yeah, that's how we do this, isn't it?
Yeah,
Random.
It is.
I forgot. It's been a while.
So, it's a fighting game. At its core, there's no other way of looking at it. You're just lying to yourself if you're saying it isn't. It's different. It's radically different. It's still a fighting game.
It's one of the most interesting things about fighting games is just, the very core concept of two people fighting until either one, runs out of health or one gets blown off the stage. That remains very common, but Smash is a perfect example showing how you can really mix up the formula to create something completely different. Ooh. This is gonna get brought up later. But definitely, Smash is, definitely a fighting game. I'm probably one of the people who joke about it the most that it isn't, but...
Yeah, we joked about that in an earlier episode, and we had comments asking what we really thought. And, I mean, there you go, but, we make jokes about it.
Ooh. See, this is both of our ends.
That's weird.
It's got lag, just like any other fighting game, of course.
It's got a really impressive netcode for having a 4-player online.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's a reason why there is an 8-player.
Yeah, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, but all in all, and specifically about Smash 4, I think one of the common, I wouldn't say common thoughts, but it's definitely a thought that a lot of people have, is that Smash gets a lot more casual as you go on. I think that in its own way, Smash 4 is just as competitive as Melee. It's got just as much potential, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, it's got a meta that's still evolving too.
Definitely.
I haven't. I'll talk about it later, but I haven't kept up with anything. But I know there's still new advanced techniques and everything being found out.
Yeah, I would say the way a lot of people see the different games in Smash, the way I see it, it's the difference between Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3. Some people see it as the difference between, just a much more dramatic difference, but I think with every single iteration, they've only built on what they've established in the previous one. It's very clear that pacing is something that was heavily adjusted between each game. But overall, I think every single entry deserves their own praise in their own way, except for Brawl. Yeah, definitely, except for Brawl.
Fuck Brawl. So, alright, that covers our ground in terms of we've established that Smash is a fighting game. So, one of those aspects of having of being a fighting game is how do we get whatever? Is the thing that it leaves a sour taste in my mouth for Smash is its community. It has a terribly, terribly toxic community. That was cool.
I definitely want to make that clear. I love Smash. I think Smash can be a really, really fun game. But just like any other, community-driven, competitive game, the people that play the games, the community that you're surrounded around, if you want to play said games, can really affect how you overall perceive a game. And definitely, I got to agree, it's the Smash community. They're not the best. This is speaking from personal experience too. There's a lot of people who
both of us have personal experience with the Smash community and why we think this.
It's definitely something else I want to make clear, is that a lot of people just blindly hate to hate. I'd like to think that both of us have a pretty, we've been around it. I've been to, now 5 majors, multiple weeklies, conventions, I've been around the scene for quite a bit now. So you definitely start to notice some trends, some patterns, some things that, keep repeating, some things that get worse. It's no knock on the game. I think is what I want to establish is kind of the takeaway, is that if you like Smash the game, you play Smash the game, and you're not a dick, then you're fine. That's not what we're here to point out and discuss today.
I was really just gonna walk up and waft like that. So we're gonna tell our personal stories here, and I'm gonna start with mine. And okay, I've had 2, but the major one that made a huge impact was at MagFest 2015. It was at MagFest is a small little convention out in Maryland. That I went to, and VG Bootcamp had a panel there. Let's see. The panel had everyone that's there, Gimmer, TK Breezy, EE, all of them were up there. Everyone that runs VG Bootcamp. And so here's what happened, right, is it was a QA session where they wanted everyone to line up in front of a microphone. It was in a big ballroom, and then they took questions. So here's what happened, right, is during that, there were people clearly drunk in the back of the line, like following the line, that were, as they were going forward, they were going into the crowd to the left and right of them and harassing people about what game they play. Like, you could hear that we were in the very back of the place in the ballroom, and we could hear them just talking to people in the crowd, asking, hey, what game do you play? Do you play Brawl? Do you play Melee? And if they didn't, if they weren't saying Melee, then they were giving them shit. If they said Smash 4, they got shit for it. So, and no one on stage was doing anything. They just kind of let it go. No one acknowledged it. That kind of thing, like, pisses me off. It's, like, just disrespectful to them. But, no one was doing anything about it because that's just, they don't do anything about it because that's just what you expect from them. That is just what you expect from the community, and that's a pretty big problem when that's something you would just expect from the community. And I think Max is dropping on my end, so... Am I coming through clear? Yeah, now you are.
Okay, so it's just I wasn't saying anything before, but now I'm pretty sure it's just a Smash thing.
And also, it was TK Breezy was also having side conversations with different people in the front row while they were answering questions. So it was like, it's just an overall like an dumb, unprofessional experience. It was just witnessing this toxicity, and no one does anything about it because that's just how it is. And if that's just how it is, I don't want any part of it.
One thing that I'd like to add on to that is that, again, people were giving other people shit about which game they played. Melee, Brawl, Smash 4. General consensus is that the Melee players, you know, they're the veterans. They're the ones who've been doing this longer, you know. So there's a bit of seniority there. But one thing that I can compare this to, and the interesting thing about everything we're going to talk about, is there is a direct comparison in other communities in the fighting game community, is Street Fighter V coming out. People swearing by Street Fighter 4, saying they're not going to switch, they're going to keep playing the game, demanding both games appear at multiple events, and for a while they actually got away with it.
Which, what is wrong with you? To start.
It's been a while. I go back and I play it. It's a very different game. It's not for me. I don't like it very much, but I can see why other people do.
Yeah. I'm
starting to see that. But the important thing to remember is that for the most part, unless you're on like, you know, Reddit, you're on, you know, Event Hub's forums and all that, it's been pretty civil. People kind of just play the games they want to play, and I'd like to say most people sort of transition between games as the newer ones come out, and stuff like that. One of the problems that panel was at MACFest 2016, because I was sitting next to you, and I think what at least everyone thought was going on was that there was a very kind of casual panel, but as an outsider, quote unquote, it comes off as, you know, very disrespectful the way some people were acting, and very unprofessional, like you said, for the people on the panel.
And that's you know, because no one was doing anything about it, that's just what it's expected. It's like, you look at it and that's the vibe you get, and when you say that, they're like, yeah, that's how it is. It's like that. Like, if you're in the Smash community, you can't say it isn't toxic. You have to say it's toxic and that you are okay with that. The problem there then is, are you you're defending toxicity is one thing, even though it's still, you know, why, but also, are you gonna just ignore the toxicity? Like, that's even weirder.
It's a mixture between a good majority of the community, whether they play Smash Melee, Smash 4. I think we're moving past the kind of split inside the community. But there is a definite sense of elitism in the Smash community in terms of internal and external. For fighting game communities, Smash is still very much, we joke that it's a game for babies, but it is kind of the baby game in the fighting game community. It just recently, within the past couple of years, started getting major coverage at major events, and now you can't have a major go by where Smash Melee and or Smash 4 is included. And one of the most interesting shifts that came with that transition from growing in popularity to where Smash is now, Smash is huge. It is a huge, huge community that's easily accessible because it's Smash Brothers. You know, people who are fans of Mario and Link can watch it and go, oh, look at these cool guys fighting. Very accessible for people. And one of the things that you notice is kind of the change in attitude as that popularity starts to go up. You know, for a very long time, a lot of the early Pro Smash players, commentators, personalities you see now, are really, really fighting to get people to give Smash a chance, because for a while there was that stigma where, you know, it's not a fighting game, it's a party game, it's a game for babies, you know. It's not as serious as a game like Street Fighter or Tekken or anything like that. And it feels like after they've finally gotten their shot and everyone started to accept them into the fighting game community, as Smash's popularity rises, they no longer want to be recognized as that. They wanted to be treated differently again. Better, special treatment. There was the whole controversy with VIP rooms, and then there's a lot of my personal experiences really do revolve around that. And then it goes down to just tournament etiquette. Again, it's still, you know, it's been a couple of years, but it's still relatively recent in the grand scheme of things that Smash has been such a widely accepted tournament game. So you have situations where I think at this point, people know you go to an event, you shower every day, and you use deodorant. Now, Smash, it's not something that you can objectively say, but at primarily CEO for a long time, or I guess still, Smash has always been hosted in a different room. And you can tell in the hallway when you start to approach the Smash room. Now, it's tougher for them because they all have to play on, like, CRTs for Melee.
Yeah, that room's way harder, and there's fires that catch on in that room because of their CRTs.
Because CRTs are supposed to be dead. You're not supposed to still have one of those.
They can explode.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing for a totally different. I think the continued use of CRTs is dumb, and that should tell you that, you know, you've been playing a game since 2001, maybe it's time to make the switch. And you definitely see that with the elitism. You know, I've been playing Melee for so long. Melee, in terms of, you know, who you see in top 8, who the top players are, I'd say Melee is probably the furthest you can get from competitive fighting games and what the spirit of fighting games really represent. With Street Fighter, you walk up, you sign up, and you could get to top 8. There's nothing really stopping you. With Melee, if you watch a Melee tournament, you want to play the game, right? You have to get an original GameCube or a Wii. You have to find the exact version of the game that everybody's playing. You have to invest in a CRT if you don't already have one. You have to buy a special controller, GameCube controller, and then you have to fight people who have 15 years of experience on you.
Yeah.
And that sucks, because in the same way that, you know, you could technically start your own League of Legends team, but if you're not, like, evil geniuses or anything like that, you're not really showing up to a tournament and doing anything. And that feels like that's what Melee's become. And in that sense, you can see where some of the ideologies of, like, you know, we need a VIP room, we're VIPs, because really, they are for Melee, because they're the only players that can perform at that level.
There's just very few cases of people that overcome it and make it.
And this is 100% not me condoning it. It's the opposite. It's very interesting to see how Smash goes from, or how the community went from, please accept us, to we want to be something very different, something very, something more, I don't know what the word is, but, you know, with the VIP stuff and special treatment and all that, it's become very elitist.
Back to how top 8s are, like, you know, that's never really happened in other fighting games. Every year at EVO for, like, Street Fighter, what else is at EVO? The other games, their top 8s usually differ significantly in both the players and characters. That's never the case for Smash, at least with Melee.
And not even just EVO. If you look at the past Red Bull tournament that just happened, this 18-year-old kid, this 18-year-old Karen player comes out of nowhere, 3-0s a lot of top players, including Justin Wong, and lands himself 4th place. Out of nowhere. No one, I mean, he's had a couple of tournaments beforehand. I really wish I could remember his name because he was such a good player, but it feels more like everyone's on an equal playing field because that's why you move as the games get newer and newer. You keep playing the newer game because then it resets the playing field. Everyone starts from square one, and that's how you grow the scene, is because people find it more accessible, you know, because the skill gap is nowhere near it is for a 15-year-old game.
Yeah, and like success stories like that even happen in Smash 4. But usually it's like as soon as like players from other countries start branching out, like when the Japanese players got to America, when the Mexican players got to America, they just dominated. So that happens in Smash Wii U. Melee, it just doesn't happen.
And that's why, again, it comes down to, for Melee, the problem is the game is too old. There's a reason we don't play Third Strike anymore. There's a reason nobody plays Tekken 3 at EVO.
Yeah.
You outgrow the game, you adapt, and you move on. And
those are fantastic games too, but you gotta move on.
Of course. It's not that the game becomes bad over time. It's just to make it more accessible competitively and to continuously even the playing field so you really see who's the best at adapting, who stays on top. You gotta switch up the games. And that's not to say, and this is personally where I think Melee should go, I think Melee should be reserved for exhibitions between those top players. Don't even bother letting people enter, because all they're doing is fueling the prize pool.
Yeah.
You can, still, increase a prize pool and stuff for exhibitions like that, but it just comes down to the same people keep winning, and Smash 4, is good. It's good that Smash 4 has gotten, I think, a lot more traction than Brawl ever did, because it is so new. You can just go out and buy it. You buy a GameCube adapter and a GameCube controller, or you can play it with anything except for the pad. They don't let you do that, I don't think.
No.
But again, I think we've gone off on some kind of tangent, but
that's all good.
Going back to one of my personal experiences, and again, elitism. This past CEO 2016, we were watching Guilty Gear Top 8, and Guilty Gear Top 8 went a little long. I think it,
this
20 minutes longer than it should have.
And it wasn't the game's fault. It was the tournament.
Yeah.
Tournament organization was why it ran long.
Yeah, it did come down to a lot of best of 5, each player has 2 matches, it did come very, very close, but it delayed.
Yeah, this is the one time Smash players don't want a best of 5s when it's another game, but yeah.
Yeah. But it delayed Melee Grand Finals by 30 minutes, I think. It was something pretty insignificant. So Melee players and Smash players complained because their game is late.
Vocally.
And here's the thing. I can understand frustration if, a tournament is running late. I didn't have a problem with people going like, oh, God damn it, I can't believe this ran late. We all need to play our matches. We gotta do our top 8. That is not the problem. The problem is the next day, Street Fighter V was delayed by an hour and a half to 2 hours because of Smash 4 Grand Finals. And not a word was said from Street Fighter players, from anything. Now,
by the way, Smash 4 tournaments run run faster than Melee tournaments. Melee takes way longer than Smash 4.
Yeah. That's because Melee is still played 8 minutes for stocks.
Yeah.
I don't care how fast the game is, that's too much. So, I wouldn't even say arguably. Street Fighter V right now is the most important fighting game. It is. That's it. It gets the most viewers.
You don't have to like it. You don't even have to play it. It's the most important.
Listen, I don't play Street Fighter V competitively. I watch it every now and then, but you have to admit, it has to run on time. It's the biggest league for any fighting game out there right now, and it's cool to see Tekken coming up with their King of Iron Fist tournament, which thank fucking God it's actually called that, and King of Fighters coming up with their King of Fighters League. Thank God it's fucking called that. But Street Fighter V is the most important game. And what you see time and time again is now that everybody in kind of the FGC as a whole has gotten used to Smash, that's what makes all of the toxicity and the separation now that Smash players want all the more polarizing, is because I think we've finally reached a point where most people would consider Smash up there with the fighting games, you know? You still got your people, and it's with every game. Everybody forever is gonna make fun of the game that other people play. It'll always be a small percentage, but for the most part, you can see a game go, yeah, I don't play that, but I respect what you guys are doing.
I've also got this just came to my mind, is there are people that'll say like, if you don't like how the toxic community is in Smash, that's just, that's a part of it, is like trash talking and shit talking others and insulting and harassing others, that's part of it, get used to it. But those same people are the exact same people that get pissy and entitled when they're told how trash their game is. That when how they treat others, when they're treated that way from other people, they'll get defensive in a second. And suddenly acting like that isn't okay.
100%. It's just I'm gonna go back to what I said before. Smash is a fighting game for babies. What I mean by that, one, it's one of the newest competitive IPs out there. It's not traditional. It's something very, very, very new in terms of, consistent competitive showings for fighting games. And the other thing to remember is that I swear I'm not gonna get hit by that again. The fan base is significantly younger. And because of that, it's a lot more, awkward. You got a lot more kind of teenagers, young teens getting into Smash and everything, which is good. It's really good. But what that leads to is a lot of immaturity, both on the side of the players and the side of the fans, where, yeah, Smash players probably get mobbed a lot more often than just regular fighting game players, because everyone who plays Street Fighter, who's grown up with Street Fighter, is so much older. And it kind of only really appeals to a slightly older audience, I'd say, 14 and up. Smash, you have kids that idolize these players and who fly out and go to tournaments just to see these players, even if they don't play the game themselves. They just want to shake Mewtwo King's arthritis hand and just meet them. And that's one of the things that makes me the most upset about the whole VIP room situation, is that you owe it to these people because they got you to where you were, and just separating yourself is not the solution. I understand when people are interrupting you during a match.
And again, the community's toxicity becomes okay when it's convenient. It's cherry picking situations.
Definitely. And a big problem is that instead of confronting the community about the toxicity, they're trying to do, little workarounds, little solutions that really don't solve the problem. It's mainly just avoiding it. Like, you should, no matter how young someone is, if somebody interrupts you during a match, you shouldn't feel weird or in the wrong telling someone, hey, listen, you really shouldn't do that. That's really disrespectful. We're all playing competitively. You can set people straight. It's just how you handle the situation. And you know, the most frustrating thing is that it's a community that refuses to set people like that straight. And so instead of, you know, telling one kid, listen, this is how you should act, this is how you should be acting, if you do that in a positive way, in a way that isn't demoralizing, or you're not looking down on them, then that person will tell their friends, and that person will tell their friends, and it'll spread, and then eventually, community is improved. It's not something that happens overnight, but it's little strides like that that really can change a community. The problem is, with a lot of Smash players, both adults and children, they're just too immature to do that. And it's because, in a sense, Smash is a very immature fighting game, just in terms of its, you know, how long it's been around.
And take Killer Instinct for an example of a community that's grown in shaping the people that are around it that play it and taking influence from others. Like, if Killer Instinct had any toxicity in its top players, it would fall even more behind. It wouldn't get anywhere. They understand it's up to everyone to lead and set an example for the community and keep it as something that's appealing.
It's that Smash got really big because people put in the work, they spread love for the community, they network with players from other games, they try to make it as open and welcoming as possible, and now that Smash is as big as it is, as quickly as it got, people have forgotten what made Smash so special to begin with. At least that's what I think.
I agree. My other thing was that I've gone to a tournament that was in Philly. And it's a weekly that's still going on right now. Nice. And I had this terrible, like, anxious vibe at it. Like, it was my first tournament in person, but I was just so anxious. And after the first match, like, I was playing friendlies and I was kind of alright. But as I, like, got into actual matches, I was like, I can't do this, I'm way too anxious. So like, before sunset, I'm like, I don't want to drive back home in the dark, so I had to up and leave. Now, compare that to when I was playing at MagFest competitively, Street Fighter V. I was playing Street Fighter V at MagFest. It wasn't an anxiety feeling for the tournament that was hosted there. It was it was adrenaline, and so that's like the difference that the games, the vibes of the games give me. Like the presence of that room in Philly, I was not feeling it.
You can 100% gauge how a room is looking at you. And, you know, not in a, like, I'm paranoid, I hear voices, like, kind of way. You can definitely feel the vibes in a room of people. And one of the things that, again, I think we've definitely brought this up, it was in, like, the first episode, was just how, like, during a match, it's all serious. You play to win, that's it. But after a match, in almost every experience I've had with Street Fighter, with BlazBlue, with Tekken, there was always kind of this mutual respect that you felt for the other person afterwards. Even if, whether you won, whether you lost, whether it was because of bullshit or what, you shake hands, you smile at one another, and that's it. You know, sometimes the person you lose to is willing to offer you advice, stuff like that. I'm not saying Smash doesn't do that same thing, but I feel like the mutual respect is somewhat lost in Smash, at least from my competitive experience. I've competed in, I think 3 Smash weeklies, and there's just a different vibe to this game, and it's really not welcoming. I 100%, I don't want to, again, it's tough to judge because of how much we joke about Smash not being a fighting game. Austin, you've had a long history with Smash.
Yeah. Way
longer than I have.
Yeah.
And I've had, it's not super long, but I've been playing fighting games for a while now. It's not welcoming, and it's not that we haven't given it a chance, because we have. We 100% have.
Yeah,
otherwise we wouldn't be driving out. We wouldn't be driving out to all these weekly tournaments just to get a taste of what it's like. It's just... the good vibes aren't there that you get from other fighting games, and it's unfortunate, but I think from what I've been hearing, Tekken is starting to get kind of the same way, and it's a little worrying.
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate.
Because this really doesn't need to become the norm. And it's not too late either. That's the thing. That's the hopeful takeaway from this, is that it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be something that happens overnight, but there is a solution. It's just something that everyone needs to band together. Not everyone who plays Street Fighter, this isn't their problem. It's not Guilty Gear's problem. It's something Smash needs to realize and work out on its own. Because the games are good, the games are fun, and they are exciting to watch. And I think when you mentioned earlier that they kind of pass off smack talk and trash talking people as part of the experience overall, my counterpoint to that is Marvel. Because that's all Marvel is.
Yeah.
But Marvel,
it's not even a game, it's just...
Marvel is a game you don't watch for the matches unless you play it competitively. The real beauty in Marvel is the players. It's all personalities. If, every fighting game were regular boxing matches and, real fights, then Marvel is the WWE. There's storylines, there's rivals, you feel it. But there's always this sense of, what is it? It's not abstract. What am I trying to think of? But you feel that it's not 100% real. There's hyperbole. With Smash, a lot of the big-headedness and, sometimes just general cruelty, you feel that it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, like, played up for fun and, for interesting, exciting, matches and quote-unquote storylines between players. It's just negativity.
Mm-hmm. Now we have one more point about this, and it's the fact that Nintendo doesn't care about the competitive scene. They have had... All they do is they throw sponsorships into some of the tournaments, but they very rarely advertise or do anything in support of the community in comparison to every other developer of a fighting game, from Arc System to Capcom, who put way more effort into promoting their games, which should be like the norm, is what Capcom and Arc System is what the norm should be. And so Nintendo is short of that norm, so more or less they're not in support of the game as much. And you could see that because of how much Nintendo pushed Pokken and Splatoon.
I was about to say, it's not that Nintendo doesn't want to push their more competitive games, it's just that Pokken it's a very small community, but it's a very tight-knit community. They support the game, they're very welcoming. And it's funny because a lot of that community are carryovers from Smash. Nobody huge, Mewtwo King isn't a driving force in that fucking community. But a lot of the people who kind of generate more of the positive vibes are also, they have their hand kind of in Tekken, or Pokken as well. The main person I can think of is DC. DC was Taken, I believe, is his full tag. But used to be a local guy, ran the Smash tournaments down here. Now he does a lot with Tekken. I'm pretty sure he commentated at one of the Wizard Worlds. I'm not too sure, but it's a much more positive community. It gets support from everybody. It's very welcoming, and so Nintendo is more willing to promote that. Smash, first of all, was never meant to be a competitive game.
Yeah.
No matter what you think, Sakurai hates that you're playing Smash and not Virtua Fighter. He's really upset.
Yeah,
Now,
pull that quote up. There it is.
That's an interesting thing to say, that somebody who plays Smash could go to Virtua Fighter. I don't think anybody could just go to Virtua Fighter unless they have like a doctorate.
Really.
But what he says is true. His games aren't meant to be competitive. And I'm not saying that they can't be. But if you really want to gain that support from Papa Nintendo, you gotta start acting better. Because as of right now, they don't want to support you at all.
Yeah.
For any reason. So you gotta at least give them something.
So, I believe that's all we have. We made our point pretty clear, in understanding, and really this is just the real thing to understand is that this is our perspective. There's a lot of people that don't understand, like, from their limited perspective of a spectator or just player, not seeing everything from other perspectives, from the people that run it in TOs and the streamers to spectators and players. They don't have, there is not as wide of a perspective in others. So it's just from what our perspective is.
We have, a lot of experience, as the player, as a spectator, but we've also run Smash tournaments. We went from weekly to bi-weekly, on and off, and there's a definite change that you see from one night when we'd host Smash and one night where we would host Killer Instinct or Street Fighter, where there's something about Smash.
No, yeah, we just in the end hated hosting Smash. It wasn't as fun, and there was disrespect and complaining, and it was a real turnoff from wanting to host it.
And you feel it everywhere. That's why I don't want to say we're top authorities, but I'd like to say that our opinions are worth listening to just because we've been around so much. We weren't the top of any, we're not the best spectators or players or tournament organizers, but we've at least had our hand in everything. Okay, now we can go back to the outro.
Well, that was still it.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, let's just finish this match then.
All right.
We should be all good.
Perfect. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. In the meantime, check out the other episodes of Hit Confirmed. It's gonna be the only Smash Wii U one. If we do,
oh yeah, did we mention that?
No, we didn't. We're selling our Wii U's and we're getting PlayStations. So,
Pros. It's really sad that the moment this match is over and the recording ends, I'm unplugging the Wii U and trading it in.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah, that's it. And so if we do anything Smash, it would be on emulator with mods, because that's the only thing that's fun. We've got to cover mods at some point, so.
Oh yeah, Project M.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Modded Project M. Not vanilla Project M.
I would love for somewhere down the line us to make another Smash episode where we're like, guess what? They got better. They fixed it. I would absolutely love it, because I'm gonna be honest, I hate the Smash community where it's at right now. But it's not that I hate it so much I want it to go away, because there's a lot of potential here. This is a perfect gateway fighting game.
Yeah.
But I just really want to see it improve.
Shit, I was looking at an email that says I just received my gaming kit. Whatever that means.
I'm about to sell this gaming kit. You know what I'm saying?
There was one more thing though. God damn it, what was it? Oh, okay. So where would the game go if we're, there's a lot of times where we play this game where like casually with friends and everything online. Well, I mean, that doesn't really happen much anymore anyways, but aside from that, yeah, Smash is always that fun as a party game, with friends. But we're not talking about it in that aspect. We're strictly talking about it as a fighting game. We say as we're on this stage.
How the fuck did this happen? Who did this?
I didn't.
I didn't. Maybe I did, actually.
I am pretty positive you did.
It might have been. But, no. That's the important thing. We said at the beginning, we're gonna say it right now. We are strictly talking about competitive Smash, and I'm not even the game, just the community.
Because this game's still a hell of a lot of fun when you play with other people. But we don't really play it much online, and if we play it in person, I mean, everyone else has Wii U's, so we don't need to be the ones there.
Yeah, and I would say that this is definitely my favorite game on the Wii.
Yeah, it's my favorite Wii U game, and it is my favorite Smash game. This one, way to go, Max.
God damn it, I'm DQ'd. No, I love Smash. I love the roster. I love the characters. I like the way it plays. I'm never gonna play it competitively, ever. I'm never gonna do it. Even if the community gets better, it's not the game for me. But the community definitely needs a facelift. It definitely needs to improve, because it's not just it's not telling of just the Smash community as a whole, but now it's a fighting game. Now it's running with the big dogs, and now it reflects the whole community. Because when people look at competitive gaming, and they look into Smash and they see the way they act, it's very easy to generalize and stretch that out to everybody.
It just kicked me offline.
Oh, that's good. I wonder why we're selling this thing. Did I say this? I don't remember if I said this in the video, but the reason the Wii U failed was because it doesn't have an Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
Or port.
Yeah, had to buy an adapter. Buy an adapter Nintendo doesn't produce anymore.
I'm gonna sell my Wii U and buy an adapter online, actually, I think. So I can play on my Wii.
Yeah, we can go back to Brawl. Oh no, they shut that online down because it worked even less. So, okay, yeah, that's it. That's all our bases. That's our outro. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out the other videos of Hit Confirm. We did King of Fighters. We done Street Fighter 5. I can only put 2 thumbnails in, so those are the only 2 you'll see here.
And real quick, I'm gonna start doing this, because that's how you make that max CPM. That's how you get those good YouTube points. Comments. Where do you guys see Smash right now? Whether it's as a person who plays Smash competitively, or somebody who watches Smash, somebody who just plays it for fun. Where do you see Smash right now? Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, we're not asking for arguments. We're asking for other opinions. Discussion, yeah.
Yeah. You can discuss without, you argue in a discussion, but there's positive arguing and negative arguing. It's a discussion. Discuss. That's it.
So, all right. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you all next time.
See you next time.